Yeah, thanks. Lateral flexion is a weird one because that's at the spine, right? When you sort of like, oh yeah, I got to stretch, you can kind of move the spine a little bit. Really, you're kind of moving your whole body, but if you went to a chiropractor or something like that, like my wife does, when he works on her, he's kind of pushing on the bones. So the bones of the spine can sort of laterally flex a little bit, but obviously not very much. Just that, you don't want your spine moving too much.
Well, they're also showing the neck just going.
Yeah, that's sort of lateral flexion too. I'm sorry? Oh, depression, elevation and depression, did I not? God, yeah, I did this one, but there's another one that I just thought of, just like chewing, like elevation and depression, opening and closing your mouth. Yeah. Oh, here's the pictures. No big deal here. All right, so now, what are the types of synovial joints in the body? Because we're going to go through about 6 of them here. The 2 most movable ones, and there's 4 of them in your body, well, your shoulders and your hips, so maybe there's only 2. The 2 ball and socket joints in the human body are the coxal joint, the hip joint, because the head of the humerus fitting, head of the femur fitting then the acetabulum. So that's the coxal joint, or the hip joint. And the other one, these are the same words here, glenohumeral or humeroscapular, basically your shoulder joint. And you know why it's a ball and socket joint? Because you know about the humerus. You know about the femur. So ball and socket joints are the most movable ones. And they do flexion, extension, abduction, adduction, circumduction, and rotation. You can do that at the shoulder. You can do it at the hip. Right? And those are the 6 most freely movable movements we can have. At the shoulder and the hip. Ball and socket joints. Of the 2, this one is much more vulnerable than this one. This one, as you'll see in just a second, kind of huge muscles and big ligaments and a big deep socket that the head of the femur fits into. This one's pretty shallow. And this one you can hurt. And people often do. Not to say you don't hurt this one, but this one is one that can definitely be damaged. So anyway, ball and socket joints. Right? These are the motions you can do there. Now, here's the shoulder joint. Just a couple of words about the shoulder joint. I think I've got 2 pictures of the shoulder joint. First of all, here's the glenoid cavity. Right? You know that. Here's the head of the humerus. It's not a very deep socket. We've got cartilage, which lines the joints to reduce friction. There's also bursa and tendencies and things like that. Obviously, all these ligaments are easy to figure out. We were just talking about them before, in terms of where they span from the various structures on the shoulder. Pretty simple there. So this is one view of it. But a better view of the shoulder joint is this picture. So here's the glenoid cavity. Right? It's lined with cartilage. But there's another structure in here, which is kind of interesting. And I want to point it out to you. And it's this structure right here. It's called the glenoid labrum. And it's like this little, almost like an O-ring that sort of surrounds the glenoid cavity. And like when you put like you got a hose, and you put a washer in it, and then you screw the end of the hose on so it doesn't leak. It forms a seal. The labrum here is like it just makes a tighter joint. But this is a structure that is injured occasionally, especially the one you typically hear it about are either baseball pitchers or football quarterbacks. And this is the injury that Drew Brees suffered, that the Chargers decided to let him go. He suffered an injury to the labrum. Now, that can be a career-ending injury for somebody who makes their living throwing. Right? So, the Chargers decided, didn't they? Well, we got a young guy. Right? Looks like he's going to be pretty good. We got this old guy. Old is probably what? 40. Got this old guy who's now got an injury right here. Well, what should we do? Well, we'll shop him out. We'll get it fixed. We'll send him off to a good orthopedic guy. We'll get him fixed up. But we'll shop him around, see if anybody wants him, right? Well, so, the rest is history. New Orleans picked him up. And now Drew could come to town with a big ring on his finger. Still waiting for the other ones, right? So, he recovered. The old guy made it back, right? Seems to have pretty good motion in that arm, right? But this one can be a problem right here. So an injury to this, you never know. Right? So you can see all these complicated structures. You can see the tendon sheaths, we can't see the tendons, you see the bursa, and how all things put together. But it's a relatively shallow joint. So if you dislocate your shoulder, what you do is you don't pop that thing out on me. Okay? If you pop this thing out, you can dislocate it at will. Can you? Okay, we don't want to see it. Huh?
Yeah.
Oh, he'll show you later. He'll show you later. Yeah, we'll have the Patrick show later. I've seen it already. It freaks me out. Anyway, if you pop it out, it's a dislocated shoulder, but some people can, just because they're more limber, can do that. And I'm just, anyway.
Will that be happening in the future?
For him in the future? Yeah, who knows? You know? Time he's 50 years old, he's liable to be going, oh man, I can't get it back in. No, probably not, because he's just, limber. But in a traumatic injury where it just really gets pushed out and muscles and ligaments get torn and things like that, then you're pretty much off to see the wizard, to get it fixed. So anyway, so you can see the structure here. Here's a picture, just to compare it for you. Here's a picture, obviously, of the hip. And you can see how much stronger and deeper and everything else that the head of the femur fits into the acetabulum. And there's also, some very large ligaments. One of the structures you all have learned is this thing up here that there's a little little indentation in the head of the femur. It's the fovea. Right, and there's a big ligament which attaches in there, and also other ligaments that attach as well. Here's just a couple of pictures. I don't have a hip joint to really test you guys on, but you can see how obviously strong this joint is, just with all these. It's like rope that's holding the whole thing together. Oh, by the way, just let me go back to this. I mentioned this, and I just want to mention it one more time. When a person suffers a broken hip, like we'll say it's an elderly patient or somebody, when they have a broken hip, it's not this area that typically is the problem. Sometimes because of bone loss in older people, sometimes we'll get very fragile necks here, that a fracture can occur there, and also up here as well. And sometimes this can get bad to where a person needs to have a hip replacement. And we've come a long ways. There was actually this very disconcerting article in the paper the other day about baby boomers, that would be me, and all the joints we need to have replaced, like hips and knees